Hi guys, it's Esmeralda. So, today I was at work and I cut my finger on a staple and I started to bleed. So I asked my manager, I was like, hey, do we have band-aids? And she was like, yeah, sure. And so she goes to the emergency kit and she gives me a band-aid. And then she was like, okay, well, I'm going to have the supervisor fill out a incident report. And I was like, oh, okay. So she starts filling out an incident report, and then she's like typing and she's asking questions, and I'm like, I put my finger in a bag and there was a staple in the bag, and then I cut my finger on the staple, and then she was like, okay, now we gotta call the triage person so that they can evaluate you, and I'm like, what? And then so she calls them, and she's on the phone with them, and this started at 10:37 because I remember because I was on my break. At 10:37, she started the phone call, and then I had to get on the phone with them, and then I was on the phone with them until 11:28. It was like 51 minutes. I was on the phone with these people and just telling them that I just got my finger and I just needed a band-aid. That was at 11:50, 11:28. And then I went back and I finished my shift, and they told me to go to the pharmacy, and then the pharmacy would give me a tetanus shot because they were like, when was the last time you got a tetanus shot? And I'm like, I don't remember the last time I got a tetanus shot. And they were like, was it within the last 5 years? And I'm like, I don't know. I've been smoking a lot of weed the last 5 years. So, and I was like, okay, so then I was over, my shift was over at like 12:30. And so then after my shift, I went to Hobby Lobby and I bought some ornaments. And then around 1 o'clock, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the pharmacy. I'm going to get this tetanus shot. Because the people on the phone were like, okay, go to the pharmacy and get the tetanus shot and then give them this phone number and then that'll be where they bill it. And I'm like, okay. And so I go to the pharmacy and I go to the tetanus shot and I give them the phone number and they were like, oh, we can't authorize this. And I'm like, well, can you call the number before you tell me no? So then they called the number, and then they still told me no, that they couldn't authorize it because they needed a prescription from a doctor, from a workers' comp doctor, before they would give me the tetanus shot, because that's how they get paid for it, I guess. I don't even know. So then I called back, and I was like, they need me to see a doctor, and then they were all like, okay, well, we'll get you the phone number. So they gave me the phone number for the urgent care, and then I called the urgent care, and then the urgent care told me that I couldn't come in unless the company gave me the authorization form. And then I was like, but none of means I gotta go back to work. And so I went back and I went there and then tried again at the pharmacy. And the pharmacy told me that I still couldn't go there and I needed to go to the urgent care first. And so I went back to my work. I went back to my work to get the authorization form, and they were like, we don't have authorization forms. We don't know what they're talking about. And I was like, I just want to get a tetanus shot. And so then my manager gets on the phone with the HR people, but at this point it was already like 3 o'clock. And it was on the East Coast, so they had already gone home, so the HR people weren't around. And then the other people weren't answering their phone, and the district manager wasn't answering their phone, and they told me to get the tetanus shot within 48 hours. And I'm like, well, it's Thanksgiving tomorrow. Nobody's going to be open. So then my manager was on the phone with the urgent care for like an hour trying to get the authorization verbally because they wouldn't take it verbally. And then they were like, okay, well, we'll just fax you over the forms. And then my manager's like, we don't have a fax machine here. And I'm just sitting there, like, I just wanted a band-aid. I just wanted a band-aid. I just wanted a band-aid. And they were like, okay, well, now you gotta go over to the urgent care. So after, now it's like 4:20. And I go over to the urgent care. And I sit there and I fill out the forms. And then I had to wait. And I was waiting. And I waited until about 5:45, and then they took me in, and then they weighed me, and I was like, no, don't, I ate ice cream today, stop. But they had it where, it didn't show it in pounds, it showed it in, whatever it is, like milligrams, whatever. I was like, okay, good, I can't do those conversion rates now, I feel thin. And then I had to wait for the doctor, and then the doctor came in, and he was like, when was the last time you had a tetanus shot? And I was like, I don't remember the last time I had a tetanus shot. When was the last time you had a hoagie? And he was like, I don't know. And I was like, see? And and so then he was like, okay, well, we're gonna run your name in the system and see if anything comes up. And I'm like, okay, just run the tetanus shot. I'm gonna just come finger on a staple. The doctor leaves, and then I'm sitting there again, and then the doctor comes back, and he's like, oh, the system says you had a tetanus shot. And I'm like, when? And he's like, June of last year. I was like camp in June of last year. I remember getting a tetanus shot when I was at camp. And it was like, well, the thing is that you're in this system, but you're not in the other system. Like, you don't exist in that system, but you exist in this system. And the problem is that we can't verify it. And I was like, and he's in the tetanus shot. And he's like, well, there's no real, like, problem if you already had a tetanus shot. We give you another tetanus shot. It's just, you got to go through getting the shot. I'm like, I don't care about getting the shot. And just poke me. I don't care. And then he's just like, okay. And then he goes and he leaves and he comes back and he just tells me again that he can't verify whether or not I got the tetanus shot. And I asked him, I was like, okay, worst case scenario, let's say I cut my finger on this dirty, rusty staple and it's somehow in some way, in some sort of way infected. What's gonna happen? And he was like, well, then you get tetany, and you can start shaking, and you can have neurological problems. And I was like, well, I don't want that. And then he was like, well, I guess we should err on the side of caution. I'm like, well, yeah, maybe we should. And then I'm sitting there, and I'm waiting. It's now 6:30, and I left work 6 hours ago. I wasn't even supposed to work today. They called me in at the last minute. They called me in at the last minute to come to work at 8:30 to unload shit. And so I was cutting boxes and unloading boxes all night and all day. Oh, and then the doctor comes back and he's like, oh, we verified it. You did get a tetanus shot last June. And I'm like, I don't remember. So they gave me a paper and they gave me a pen. And I left. And it took 6 hours. And all I got was a fancier Band-Aid. I miss stand-up so much. I just bark. I have 6 hours. But I have fancier Band-Aid. So that was my day. Okay, guys, I miss you.